So, I got to go and play WWE 2K20 on Friday, and of course, I couldn't tell you anything until today. Today is the day when I actually come and tell you what's been going on, how I got on, and what I actually thought of the game this year. Now, there's quite a few bits to go through, so I've basically cut this down to the good, the bad, and the ugly of WWE 2K20. Let's jump into it. Before I start, don't forget to like and subscribe, because we are going to be dropping a load of videos this year on WWE 2K20. We're going to be going through the My Career, we're going to be going through the Showcase, we're going to be going through a lot of entrances. Even today, there are going to be so many entrances, it's going to be crazy. So, we're going to jump through this, and we're going to get my unbridled thoughts, pretty much, on what this year's game is like. We'll start off with the good. The visuals great. There's a lot of people out there that were really worried about the visuals. I actually think the visuals don't look anywhere near as bad as what they were presenting in the adverts and stuff like that. I really think that if they just stuck a work in progress underneath any of the footage, it probably would have saved a lot of backlash. But unfortunately, we know what this community is like. So, they see something they don't like, they're going to tell you. That's just how it is. Greg Hamilton was absolutely fantastic on the mic this year. Just like, could we have him permanently? Just permanently? I would be absolutely on board with this. This needs to happen, because his ring announcing was just wow. Honestly, wow. So I'm totally on board with that. If he wants to come back every year, fine with me. I'm good with that. The crowd chants are absolutely brilliant this year. The crowd seemed much more involved, at least audibly. So, say for instance, I heard quite frequently while using the Fiend that Bray is going to kill the other person. I heard quite frequently as well when using the Undisputed Era, Chants for Adam Cole, regardless of, you know, the amount of people that were entering the ring or what point they are with the entrances. It's crazy. Honestly, the crowd chants are just so much better this year. So much better. The updated entrances as well, some of them are absolutely fantastic. Now, I've really got to say this. I probably would have dropped this at the same time. Elias's updated entrance is just insane. I personally love it, and I know there's a few different versions, so you really need to go on the channel and go and see that video, because Elias, that entrance is just, unbelievable. So good. So good. The Showcase this year, although focused on the women, which a lot of people don't seem to like, not sure why, is actually, in my opinion, pretty good. I quite enjoyed it. It's not bad. I didn't play loads of it, but it plays just like a Showcase should, and it's quite nice to have a bit of the history behind it and the stories. So I'm okay with this. I've got no problems whatsoever with this Showcase. The My Career itself, wow. This plays, you can tell, like a VC production, because if you've played the NBA 2K series and you've played their My Career, then you know that this series, it's so good. It's a lot like playing a movie, an interactive movie. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't really be called My Career, because I don't really get too much choice from what I'm hearing. Although it's 20 to 25 hours long, depending, obviously, on skill level and that. It's insane. It's got so much depth this year, so much more than what it had done previously. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's looking good. It's looking good. I mean, I did play just a little bit of it, but the majority of it was cutscenes, because that's just that's just how the beginning of VC games play. They play more like a movie until you start getting things going. But from what I'm hearing, very good things this year. Just, it's exactly what was needed for this year. Honestly, I really think a lot of the majority of people will be really pleased with this year's My Career mode. The originals, I did play this. You will see this on the channel. And yes, it was very good. I mean, a lot of people are saying that it's probably not their cup of tea. It's not the thing that they like about wrestling. I would say to those people, give it a chance. It's not your regular WWE sports thing, but to be honest with you, it's just fun. It's just fun, and the unlockables on there, so good. You've just got to go and experience it. It's just something different that's going to distract you if you get a little bit bored with running through universe mode constantly. It's one of those things, you know, you kind of can't do anything about it. You've got to get involved. You've got to get involved and just at least try it out. Well, I mean, you don't really have a choice if you want to get in with the Fiend, so the controls. Now, I do get a lot of people asking me about the controls in this year's game, and quite frankly, it was a bit weird to get used to at first, but I can see now why they've made that change. It doesn't feel ridiculous as a lot of people thought it would. The Y button or the triangle button, depending on which one or console you're using, it's not that big of a deal. It is a bit of funny changing a few things. I will release a photo of the control scheme. Probably do that on my Twitter. But it's just... okay, it was a bit odd at first. But thinking about, like, you know, everything that it could have been, how bad it could have been, these controls make sense. And quite frankly, seemed absolutely fine. So, once you get used to them, you won't have a problem. It's not a big deal at all. Custom weapon wheels. Now this is where things get a little bit interesting. This year you can customize your weapon wheel, and you have a lot of options. I will be dropping a video on these options as well, so seriously guys, you need to check it out, because custom weapon wheels are a massive game changer this year. It's brilliant. It is fantastic, because you can just go, there's some crazy options. Let's just put it that way. There's some crazy options. Another great thing is that there are now weapons in Hell in a Cell. I was right. So it's always good to know that when you spot something, it's confirmed. It's you know, it's good. It's good for me, at least, anyway. I feel like this year the Hell in a Cell is much more improved. It plays really nicely. I didn't really get to get outside of the cell. We did only have limited time to play the game. I think, what, maybe 3 to 4 hours, so we didn't get loads of time with the game. We got enough time to play and get a good assessment of it, but didn't get everything that I wanted. Of course, nobody is, not with that amount of time. You just left there wanting more, wanting to play more, wanting to investigate more. But things like that Hell in a Cell, man, honestly, having weapons in Hell in a Cell is so good. It's exactly what we wanted. New areas, say for instance, like the boiler room, things that you can unlock later down the line, even with the originals, things where places where you could just brawl. It's pretty cool. The amount of new arenas in this year as well is really good. I mean, honestly, they kind of got to town with a lot of the stuff that they can, so it's good to see that they've put that work in to do that and kind of bring us up to speed as much as possibly they can, while also stretching things a little bit with my career. But you'll see that later on. You'll get what I mean. 4-man entrances return this year. Undisputed Era get their updated 4-man entrance, and there's a few other stable entrances as well that have been added. So 4-man entrances are completely back, which is great. So I'm guessing you'll probably be able to get, I think you'll be able to get Sanity. I did recall seeing them in there. So this is another great thing that's been confirmed. Totally on board with this. You just kind of got to go through it. Like I said, we didn't get a load of time with this, so I didn't delve too deep into the creation suite. I did what I could while trying to capture everything else at the same time. So the time limit, the time limit kind of makes you have to make choices. So I went through it as best I could, but from what I could see, these entrances, they were pretty good this year. There was an extensive list of entrances, championship entrances, tag team entrances. There's a lot. There is a lot this year. So if you don't see a character in game, more than likely they've put the entrance in there so you can go ahead and create them, which of course isn't the way that you want them to have to do it. You'd rather just the character be in, but at least they're doing things about the stuff that they don't have control over, because as we all know, 2K doesn't finalize the roster. They give WWE the roster, and roster is then handed documents as to whether WWE wants them to be in or not. So it's kind of out of 2K's hands. They just get the cards they're dealt with, really. Bit of a shame, considering the amount of people they lost out, but we'll talk about that later. There are over 200 characters to play with this year on the roster. That's pretty huge. This is including the duplicates though, and some really strange and zany characters that come from my career. So you're going to see there's quite a bit I think there was like 207 or 208 in total. I mean, it's quite extensive. It's quite an extensive list. And being realistic, you may not be 100% with it, because I don't know how many people there are on there that aren't duplicates. I mean, say for instance, it's pretty good this year that they've got a hold on it, because a lot of people with the duplicates, they were complaining that there was like 5 versions of some people and 6 versions of some people, and especially with the legends. But the majority of the legends this year have actually been cut down to 2 versions. So, say for instance, Sting, there's Sting with the Surfer face paint, and there's Crow Sting. That's it. There's no other face paint. That's it. It's done. It's done. On that note, though, Jeff Hardy does have his face paint. Fantastic. The commentary this year does actually seem a lot better as well, so there is that as well to look forward to, and quite honestly, I'm okay with it. I'm okay. It did sound a lot better. It sounded a lot more fluid. It sounded like they definitely recorded a lot more lines. It's okay. It's a lot better than it was, honestly, and I think it's going to only improve, because you're going to have to build lines over years. You know, you can't just have everything in all day one. There's far too much that changes in WWE, as we all know, for it to be all great day one. But that was pretty much it for all the good stuff. Let's move on to the bad. Now, I wouldn't say this is bad, okay? And the reason I say this is because some of the things, yes, they're bad. Some of the things are just, I would categorize them as bad, but not say, man, this is terrible. What are you doing? So I kind of want to say that this is just the things that aren't good and some things that are bad, but just lumped in with one. And we'll just talk about it. The roster obviously is going to go in this list. It's not as huge as I'd like. It does lack the legends. It does lack Leo Rush. It does lack the Ascension. There's a lot of people that are actually missing in this year, and I don't know why. And this is a bit of a thing for me, and I don't know whether they're coming in DLC or whatever, but the roster that I've put up on my list, on my things, on my YouTube, is the final list that's in the game that we played. So if they add people in later on, then great. If they don't, this is what you get. I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff, and like I said, although there are 200 characters to play with, some of those characters you do not want to play. I'm just saying, like, you will face them in my career, and then you will say, never again. The backstage hasn't changed. Problems with this? Not really. I mean, okay, it's changed a little bit, even with things like the camera. The camera isn't stuck in one place so much. It kind of moves around a little bit more. But it just really hasn't changed. Not a lot. Not really a lot. There's a few cool things that you can do with it. Say, for instance, if you walk up to certain tables and another superstar is coming behind you, you can use the interact button or the grapple button, and it will grab a tray, say for instance, from catering and throw them at him. But as far as like major changes to adding a boiler room or a way to get around to another area, no, none of that. It's not a thing. Sadly, one of those things. The NXT UK Women's Championship and the 24/7 Championship are not in the game, although the Women's Tag Team Championships are in the game. So I'm not sure why the 24/7 Championship wasn't put in this year along with the NXT Women's Championship. That seems a bit odd to me, but they aren't in, so that's going to be a bit of a problem down the line. I'll explain why in a moment. The other thing I'm going to throw in here as well, as I said, I'm not saying that this is bad, I'm saying that could have been better, is Universe Mode. You'll see my video on Universe Mode later on, but Universe Mode pretty much this year is just a case of, they gave us everything they changed. There is not a lot that's any different there. I mean, there's a few little bits, say for instance Money in the Bank now, you can actually make the Money in the Bank cash-inable on certain championships, not just a blanket, I can cash in on whatever I want. You can have divisions for it. But the majority of the things, nothing's really changed. And I actually mean that sincerely, because I went through it. I looked, I tried to find stuff that had changed, that may have been hidden on certain screens or in depth somewhere, and they gave us everything that changed. They let us know everything that changed, and there are reasons for this. And the main reasons for this are the fact that, well, it's kind of in a transitional phase. The reason that I got given as to why certain things are the way they are is because Visual Concepts are trying to modernize the engine, which is fair enough considering how old that engine is, and it needs its creaky doors taken off and replaced with brand new ones. But there are things this year that are affected by these changes, and this is where we get to the ugly stage. And I know that this is going to cause a lot of fuss, and I know it's going to cause a problem. So I kind of just have to say it, and the ugly thing is Creator Championship is not in the game this year. I'm going to let that sink in for a moment. The reason I was given for Creator Championship not being in this year is because this year they, as they said on Denk's video, is the fact that 2K and Visual Concepts, mainly obviously, have taken apart the Creation Suite this year and put it back together. And they've really tried building it again in a modernized way that will allow for the system to be upgraded, updated, made a lot easier to use. And unfortunately this year I got told that they didn't make Creator Championship in time. So they pulled it all out, they stripped it down bare to the bottom of its code, and they couldn't rebuild it in time. This is obviously, as far as I'm concerned, a huge problem. Huge, like drastically huge, because there are a lot of people out there, content creators that I know, that you watch, that use custom championships. There are people out there that make rival promotions and base their content around that, and their universe modes. Even people who just make fantasy promotions and want to make their own belts. And now that's not possible. It's not even possible for you to update the championships in the game. It's not possible for you to create the 24/7 championship. It's not possible for you to create the NXT UK Women's Championship. That's not a thing. And that's ridiculously disappointing. And I know a lot of people are going to be really upset about this. This is just a case of they ran out of time. They ran out of time before it went gold. They tried to get it out, but they couldn't. It wasn't in a good state for it enough to get out, and they've had to leave it. Possibly till next year. I don't know if they'll patch it in, but it doesn't look that way at all. It wasn't there in the build that we played in, and the answer I got was that they ran out of time. So unless they seriously work at it, this year you ain't getting Creator Championship. I've also been told by a few other creators as well who use creatives and the Creator Superstar modes extensively, that this year the Creator Superstar is nowhere near as good as it used to be. Some things have actually been made harder, and they feel like it's been a step backwards for the Creation Suite in some aspects. I can't really comment on that because I don't use the Creation Suite extensively. I use it to create my character, James Saxon, and that's it. I have a play every now and again and maybe create some random characters, but I don't go in depth with it and create new superstars or superstars from rival promotions. I don't do that. That's their wheelhouse. I don't touch it. But I think that there's a lot of people that are going to be upset by this year, and I don't blame them at all, because when I heard and when I looked and it wasn't there, especially because Money in the Bank customization is in again, and I think the reason that is because they probably pulled that apart. It's relatively new, it's quite quick, there's not a lot of customization to it apart from adding colours and you know, pictures to it. It's not a huge thing, So Create a Championship is actually quite extensive to pull apart with all the moving parts that it has in it. So not having it in there, oh man, the community is going to backlash, and I know it. And I know there's going to be a lot of comments under this video. I don't have any power or any sway whatsoever. It's really disappointing. This is the ugly part of it. This is the ugly part of it, and I know, and I don't want it to take away from the rest of the stuff that they've done with the game, because they really have done a lot of good stuff with the game. You know, and I think that in their strive to modernize this engine, as I said, they've just run out of time. This is what I've been told officially, you know, from devs. They've just run out of time, and I think at this point, you just kind of, in my opinion, there is going to be aspects of this game that are transitional, and the game, if you are heavily into, you know, creating your own stuff, and it's not game breaking. It's, you know, if you like creating championships and that's all you do, it's going to have an effect. Yes, if you create your own custom shows and you want to use your own championships, it's going to have an effect. Yes. If you do anything that's not, that involves or runs around custom championships, it's going to have an effect. And like I said, I don't want it to take away from the rest of the good stuff that they've done this year, because they have done a lot of good stuff, but this is there's going to be backlash. And like I said, I don't blame people, but let's just keep it to what it is. The game itself plays well. It looks alright. You know, the entrances are great. They've really gone out with the original stuff. The controls, they've changed new areas. They've done what they can with the roster. It is what it is. And quite frankly, I know that a lot of people are going to be upset by this. I know they are. But there's not a lot that we can do about it. And quite frankly, if this is game breaking for you and you won't purchase it because there's no Create a Championship in it for you, then I don't know what to say, because the rest of the game is great. One mode shouldn't dictate whether or not you play the game this year unless it dramatically affects your plans. And then I can appreciate that you want to stick with 2K19. To be fair, there is a lot of stuff in this year's game. It may get patched, it may appear. I wouldn't hold my breath for it, personally, but there's no reason why it couldn't get patched eventually. We'll just have to see, because I don't want to sit here and say that it's definitely not going to be in, because it may possibly, but what I got told, it's not making it in this year, and that was from a dev. So I don't know. I don't know. And I really wanted this in this year because, like I said, I know creators that use this feature a lot, and it does affect, you know, custom universe modes. It does affect people who run online federations and things like that. You know, there's a lot of things that it affects. It has a little bit of a ripple effect. So I don't know. I mean, realistically, like I said, if this mode is the deal breaker for you, and you can't buy it because it doesn't have Create a Championship in it for you, then I can only imagine that you must use Create a Championship extensively. But apart from that, like I said, everything else is I mean, the goods outweigh the bad. It just so happens that there's just one big fat ugly, but doesn't affect the overall game. Quite frankly, like I said, the goods outweigh the bad. There's a lot of good this year. You know, the My Career, the originals, the showcase, everything in there is really, really good. And there's a lot of minor changes as well that make the game a lot better, just straight off the bat. But I mean, if this is a game changer for you and you can't play it because of this one mode, which, quite frankly, I didn't really use that much myself, but of course it was really cool to be able to take James Saxon to other promotions and win their championships and stuff. So maybe it'll affect it in that way, but to be quite fair, there's not much that we can do about it now. But as I said, the game played great. There was a lot of good modes. There was a lot of good stuff in there. There's just one ugly thing. Realistically, it's an improvement. It's an improvement on what it was last year. But I'm not gonna sit here and say everything is peachy, because it's not. You know, there are some things, and it is what I would call the transitional sections in the game. So we'll just have to see what happens. But like this year, this game is taking strides in the right direction, and I think that if you get the game, play the game, you'll agree. You'll agree it's making strides in the right direction, and they are definitely doing things the right way. I don't work for 2K, I don't work for VC, I just say what I see. So, and this year, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. I know there's going to be a lot of angry comments underneath this, but I don't. This is what I've got. This is literally how it is. So, if this annoys you and this upsets you, and you think this sucks, probably right. You're probably right. But what can I say? There is nothing I can do about it. So, as far as I'm concerned, it was a good game this year. Definitely a step in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to playing it. But don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think of all the videos and info that's being dropped today. I want to know what you guys think, what you've seen, what you like, what you don't like, and just tell me, you know, what's going on. How are you thinking about this? And let's see what this year brings. Catch you in the next one.